Well, what's up, everybody? Big D coming back at you live from the 505 Summer Lounge, aka Rain Go Away Lounge. It's been raining for like 2 weeks straight, man. Ah, I got a jungle out in my backyard, and I can't get out there to even mow the lawn. But welcome, everybody. I digress. But welcome. I want to welcome all of you guys for coming in, checking us out. Tonight, my guest, very special guest. He's one of my favorite people who creates content, what he does, cigar historian, reviewer, content creator. Everything he does is just, I love it. One of my favorite people out there. I got to catch up with him and bring him on the show a couple times a year because his greatness deserves to be showcased that much. But before I bring my guest on, I want to remind you guys to get on over to selectdraw.com, selectdrawcigarcutter.com. Right down there on the scroll, use that promo code 505CR. You'll save some coin at checkout. Man, you can use this for whatever you want. This can be used as just a regular cutter itself with the punch, multiple punch. You can also use this in conjunction with your favorite cut that you want as an enhancement, a flavor enhancement to the cigar. I'm sold on the Select Draw. If you watched my product review on this, that nothing beat this, man. This thing was phenomenal. And I'm sold on the Select Draw. I think you guys will be too, especially on a cigar that you know so well. That flavor enhancement you get by opening up the your draw by putting the holes in it and allowing more air to come in. Fantastic. So get on over selectdrawcigarcutters.com. Use promo code 505CR, and that'll save you some coin on your order. All right. So without further ado, let's bring on the guest of tonight, my favorite person out there who creates content, none other than Mr. Jose from BackYard Cigars. Jose!
Hey, Daniel, thank you so much for having me and for all the kind words in that introduction. I really appreciate that.
What's up,
And
Rich?
I love your content as well.
Oh,
Your
thank you.
stuff is amazing, progressing every day, just getting better and better, man.
Hi, boss lady. Two big superstars coming in the chat there with Tasha and Wrench.
Oh, Wrench, what's up, man? What's up, brother?
Oh, it's so good to have you on, man. Like I said, I got to bring you on a couple of times a year. Your greatness needs to be put out there for more people to find and to be able to shine. So more people need to be turned on to you. And I've told you before, I don't care if it's just you and me on this live. It's just going to be 2 hours of nerding and geeking out, uh, just between both of us. Anybody else
Yeah.
who wants to join in that fun and festivities can. But I know it's just going to be fun for me.
Same here. Same here.
So while I get my cigar lit up, I will hand it over to you so you can introduce yourself and your brand to everybody who's watching.
Well, I'm Jose of BackYard Cigars, and my primary focus is really to simply share the wealth of information of cigar history with everyone and anyone that's willing to listen. I do geek out, as Daniel has mentioned, on the different cigar varieties, the blends, and things like that. But at the end of the day, the most important thing that I love to preach, that I know Daniel does as well, is basically just to have a good time and to really enjoy the cigar experience and the cigar that you have chosen. As Daniel has just shown us his work of art there by Padron. You can't go wrong there ever.
Never.
And I think we agree on that all the time. You just can't go wrong with Padron. But if you do try other brands, or if you're just curious about other things, I love to talk about different wrappers, how they affect the blend, and always going back into history and reminding people about what things were like back in yesteryears and how they looked at cigars as well.
Yes, exactly. And you just got a new follower to your channel there. Boss lady herself.
Oh, much appreciated. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
You'll love it. I love his content. You're the one that you can put out a 2-hour video on the history of dirt in Kansas for growing tobacco, and I would watch all 2 hours of it and be fascinated.
Thank you, thank you. You know, one of the things I'm trying to do, I really am. I'm trying to up the production just a bit. I just recently bought a new camera, trying to figure out how to, get comfortable with that, because I do realize that even though the raw information that I put out there and just the content as is informative, and I'm appreciative when anyone engages, I do realize that sometimes we have to be a bit entertaining as well. You've said it as well, where you're like, if you're not teaching me anything and you're kind of dull, then I'm gonna switch the channel and look for something else that's gonna entertain me a little bit. So I like to inject my personality, which is this, a feverish desire to learn about tobacco, learn about blends, and just talk about cigar history, and share that infectiousness that I have for the love of the hobby that we all happen to love. So I have that with Daniel, who I geek out with all the time. And it's like, yeah, a lot of us speak the same language, but when Daniel and I are talking tobacco and cigars, it's like we're really in tune to a lot of the different things. And yeah, I appreciate your support and everyone else's. But Daniel, we've been we went through the whole YouTube maze together,
Yes.
and so we've got some history there from the YouTube. But I'm just glad that you moved on to bigger and better things, brother. I really am.
I had no choice. Actually.
Yeah, I know,
I
I
had
know.
no choice but to, not there. And Lola, you are correct. Yes, good old Lee there. There's nothing wrong with geeking out over cigars, and I
No,
think you won't get an argument from us two gentlemen on that.
absolutely. But
Uh,
yeah, that's been my lately. That's what I've been trying to do. Just work on a little bit of production value, but never sacrificing the content for the production value. Because I think that overall, again, going back to how you say, if I'm saying something that is really not helping you in your cigar journey, or if it's not enlightening you to try different things, or just to have a different perspective about cigars and cigar history, then I'm not doing what I set out to do.
I think so, but what I like about your content is how thorough you are with your research. And yeah, for some people the videos may be too long. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't have 2 hours to listen to the history on this. But if you actually take the time and listen to the 2 hours, you learn so much, because it's so a lot of going back into the history it's still an integral part of what's being done today. It just done in more of a little bit of a different fashion than how it was done back then. But you really get the full feel for the concept of whatever it is that you're doing. Like when you did, when you went over the binders that were used in early tobacco from the United States, and how
Mhm.
Wisconsin tobacco was the staple for put the binders in old cigars,
Yeah.
and that stuff has kind of gotten away from what we use, because now it's like, well, now we're just going to use this and this and this. But they were bringing in tobaccos from all over the world to be showcased and bound together with U.S. binder.
Yes, yes. That was back in the heyday. We're talking early 1900s up until the 20s and the 30s, when you had tobacco being used from binders from Wisconsin, Georgia. Of course, Florida was up in the mix as well, and that was obviously a long time ago, but it's a part of history, and I think it's something that we shouldn't forget. People are still using Wisconsin binders on certain cigars. I still find them. It's not as common, but it's always a little treat when I get to try something like that and just be able to share that and say, hey, look at this blend, look at the specs on this cigar. Isn't this interesting? Let's see how this smokes. And it's usually smoking quite fine and quite well. And I kind of like that, using obscure tobaccos. Even when you've mentioned to me about how some companies will use a little bit of pipe tobacco in the blend, and I know that some traditionalists might say, "Oh, pipe tobacco doesn't belong anywhere near premium tobacco." We can argue about that, but sometimes the cigar is just delicious and it's well done and it's blended right,
I think
Yeah.
so. I look, I don't have a problem with companies using tobacco that is traditionally pipe tobacco within the blend. I think it's fine. Yeah, it's tobacco's tobacco. You're still getting the whole leaf. It's just
Hmm.
instead, hey, we just tend to, like I don't understand why Marlboro broadleaf isn't used more in regular cigars. It's delicious in pipe tobacco. As a wrapper, that smell, that just sweet,
Yeah, yeah.
smoky smell that you get if you've ever had Marlboro broadleaf pipe tobacco.
And I've never had it, but I've, your description is
Yeah,
what I've
it's
read.
this sweet smokiness smell to it, and it's got this delicious. There's this like subtle like smoked wood chocolatiness to that Marlboro broadleaf that it would be a great wrapper. The aromatics on that smoke would be fantastic. But again, it's the one that's not used
Yeah,
often on that, and I think it should be, but it's not.
yeah,
Same thing, Moroccan tobacco. Why not? You want to add a nice pungent spice to the? Why not put some Moroccan tobacco in your binder? Give a little nice pungent spiciness to it.
absolutely. And it's ideas like that that are driving a lot of blenders today to do different things with their blends and to just get a little crazy with it, a little funky with it, and try something new, something non-traditional perhaps, but something that might, let's just say, attract new cigar smokers that can appreciate something a little funky and different.
Yeah, I agree. I think so.
Hmm.
I think so. And you're starting to see that with some of these newer boutique or smaller companies out there are really starting to uh, uh, experiment
Oh
with
yeah.
with non-traditional tobaccos out there, and a lot of these sticks that I've been smoking from these companies are fantastic because it's outside the box thinking. It's not like anything I've ever had before. It's unique. It stands out on my palate.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And maybe it's not for everybody, and that's okay, but a little variety I don't think will hurt the cigar industry as long as it's well blended and it's pleasing.
Yes,
I'm all for it.
I think so. I agree as well. I think that it's out there, and there's so much deliciousness that are coming from these new companies out there now. They're really thinking outside the box. They're really utilizing a lot of these small blenders and small companies
Yeah.
in the Dominican and in Nicaragua that it's like, well, who did this? And they tell me, and I go, I don't know that company.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I got to research, and I'm
Hmm.
just like, dude, man, this guy, this is so good. It's like, wow, you found a gold mine with this guy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's a lot happening in the cigar industry right now, and I think a lot of it is mostly positive, and it's mostly headed in the right direction. You've got people doing wonderful things. I've got some good friends out in Puerto Rico, Finca Neo Hibairo, and they are growing. And they promised me that they will achieve this. They said, we're going to do for Puerto Rico what Fuente did for the Dominican Republic in regards to growing a Puerto Rican leaf that can be used as a wrapper, which hasn't been done since probably the 1920s or 30s, and you've got a lot of folks like that doing experimental things, just working their way through introducing us cigar smokers to something new and delicious. And their stuff has been delicious. It has. So I'm looking forward to that and a variety of other people that are boutiques that are just doing amazing things with their blends, really. And you highlight a lot of them, which I appreciate.
I'm trying to. What's up, Anthony? Glad to see you, man. I'm trying to, and that's been kind of the focus on the Tuesday night show, which unfortunately I got to tell everybody, Ryan will be leaving the Tuesday night show at the end of the month, and I don't know what's going to happen with the show. Unfortunately, I'd love to continue doing it, but I'd have to find, I got to try, now it's a matter of trying to find a co-host that I can, gel with, and that can be on camera, that can handle conversation, that can really kind of lead everything. And I don't know, I think the show may be, the Tuesday show may be over with, unfortunately. I love doing that show. I love it. And it's been one of my favorite things to do, but Ryan's got he's got to do what's best for him, and he's got a great opportunity that just won't allow him to do it anymore. And I'm happy for him, but I'm also sad that, it's probably, we had a good run for almost a year. So,
hey, so I'm sure something else will pop up that you can do. Sorry to hear that. It's always bad when you lose, partner in crime, so to speak, like that, and you gotta kind of reshuffle the cards.
Yeah, so we'll see. The show may continue on. I may find a new co-host out there that I gel with, and can do good on camera and has good interviewing skills. Because that's getting the thing is, having Ryan there, his ability to carry the show while I kind of do all the stuff in the background of the show to continue to make it run. Having him being able to talk and to go, and then me popping in every now and then, it's it works out perfect. And I just I don't know how well it would work with anybody else, but
I hear you. Let me see. Are my Tuesdays free?
If your Tuesdays are free, you'll have to deal with me sending you a lot of cigars.
Oh, wow. Oh, God. I can't imagine that. That'd be so horrible.
That's right. Yeah, look, you're going to get a lot of cigars. You're going to get a lot of stuff from new companies and new brands you've never heard of. You'll have to sacrifice probably smoking a lot of deliciousness. And I know you don't like that stuff, but
will there be lanceros involved?
Yes, there will. There will be.
Oh man.
Next Tuesday is a Lancero.
Tuesday's a Lancero.
It is. We will be smoking a Lancero next Tuesday. On the show with the brand owner will be on this gorgeous barber pole Lancero.
Oh wow, nice. I love a well done barber pole.
I do too.
I really do.
Yeah. So good. So Messi, what's going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat. So yeah, I have noticed that you've kind of tamed down on doing a lot of the review stuff on your channel. You've gone to more talk and a bit more historical programming on there. Are you kind of in that? Are you kind of in that same group now that feels the reviews are kind of
done? I feel that there's less. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there's less interest in the reviews and more interest in cigar lifestyle and cigar brands per se. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of other folks are talking about certain parts of cigar history, but for me, it's always been about cigar history from the very beginning. It just took me a while to realize that that was my calling, and and then lately with the longer videos, people have talked about, well, why don't you try a podcast, because that might be more fitting for your format. And I won't disagree with that, and it's still on the table. But in the meantime, I've kind of gone to like that conversational format where we're just smoking a cigar, like talking to you about the cigar I'm smoking, talking to you about the history behind it, picking certain cigars that might garner more interest or might just be conversation pieces, and see how it works out. But that you were talking about earlier, how the information and that I go through, and I really do a lot of research hours to make sure that I get it right, so that when I'm talking and I'm speaking about something, I can feel confident that what I'm saying is on point. I don't want to give wrong information. I recently did a video on a cigar brand owned by a Native American at Siniki Cigars from Tennessee. Very small company, and I did a lot of research on the owner and everything about the company and what it stood for. And then I get some guy that leaves a comment talking about how this just sounds like a bunch of marketing BS. What's Native American about this particular company? And they nicknamed him the storyteller. It seems to me that, storyteller is a nickname for a bullshitter. And it's just, look, I understand some people have feelings about certain things, but I vetted the guy in my own way. I without speaking with to him, I looked up his organization. I looked at his record. I looked at what he stood for. I looked at just a bunch of things in regards to the employment of who he employs. He worked with Arsenio Ramos. I don't know if you maybe heard the name. I mean, he's an older guy. He passed away in 2018, 2019, but he was from Cuba, and he was from that generation pre-Castro, and survived the Castro regime, and then started working for Aguinor Salif, and did some work with a couple of other cigar brands. And from everything I read, Arsenio really was in tune with Charles Robinson, the owner of Asiniki, and they formed a good bond, and he blended some cigars for this company. And I think they're wonderful cigars. And I think just sometimes, uh, I have to check people, because I'm like, look, I'm not gonna start talking about a company if they are all BS marketing, and if that's what it is, I'll just say it. But you get that sometimes, and people will try to fact check me, which I love. It's like, you want to stump me? I'll give you one. I did a review on Liga Privada number 9.
Okay.
We know this cigar, right? Famous
Yes.
cigar.
Delicious.
Delicious. Whether people argue about whether it's the same cigar now as it once was, we could argue about that, but crops change. I digress. The point being is that I said that this Steve Saka played a role in the creation of this cigar.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a lot of comments saying this is not a Steve Saka cigar. This is this is Liga Privada, and this is a different, these are different individuals involved in the making of the cigar. So I just said, look, if you look even on their website, you'll see that Steve Saka was involved in the creation of the Liga Privada number 9. Is it his cigar? His cigar only? No, but I love it when people try that though. Like, fact check me. If you got me, you got me, and I'll say it. You got me. But sometimes I think it's just their
no, but it's gotta make look. If you weren't getting hate and fact checked from people, then you're not doing your job, and you're not putting out an entertaining
yeah.
product out there. Look, I don't do reviews anymore, but I got shit on from my top 10 list from last year. I was told that the order I had a couple of the cigars in was wrong, and I'm like, well, first off, it's my opinion. It's based on my palate's perspective and my opinion. If you think that other cigar is better than this one, then that's your opinion. I'm only giving you my opinion, my top 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, numerous people told me I was wrong in my list. I'm like, but it's my list. So how
You
can I
can't
be
be wrong on your list.
Yeah, how can I be wrong in my list? But
It's like being wrong in your own dream. It's like, it's my dream. I can dream what I want. And if I dreamt that I was the master of the universe, that's what I was. But yeah, a list is subjective, right?
yeah,
We see all of these lists. People get so riled up with Cigar Aficionados, top 25, and oh, that cigar shouldn't. Look, it's subjective. You know, they're trying cigars now. Sometimes,
wow.
no, I'm not saying Cigar Aficionado is on point. Far from it. I'm not defending Cigar Aficionado. I'm actually more like that's more for the industry and maybe a small guide for beginners. You're a beginner, right? You want to
Well,
look at some interesting cigars, you go on people's
but
lists.
but they're all the same cigars every year. They're just changing the size. It's a different size stick, so therefore it's a completely different cigar. So
Yeah.
if you have 10 sizes in that line, conceivably you've got 10 top three or top five
Yes,
sticks for
yes,
10
yes.
years in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Well,
and I disagree with that.
no, yeah, I disagree most of the time with Cigar Aficionado's list. I do. There's always a few that are like worthy, of course, but
This thing
list
could be cigar of the year every single year, and every
it could
size
be.
that they make
It
up.
could be.
On all 7 sizes of this stick, it could be cigar of the year every year. Let's just be
It
honest.
certainly could be. It could be. It could be. And I am sure that they think, oh, well, we've got to spread the love because it's an industry thing and we've got to recognize other people. But oftentimes you're recognizing the same 5 or 6 people over and over, like you said, with different cigar vitola sizes. And that's pretty much it. But I liked your list if for what it matters, for what it, for what it's worth. And I thought that it was pretty spot on. We're never going to agree 100% on every single stick, right? But I think you presented a solid list. My take.
Well, look, for somebody like me who smokes a ton of cigars, I had to narrow it down to cigars I smoked a minimum of 5 of. That
Mm-hmm.
I had to have some sort of standard on there. Otherwise, okay, well, I only smoked this once, but it was so good, it's cigar of the year worthy.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I had to narrow it down. It's like, okay, what cigars have I smoked a lot of this year, and let's work that list.
Yeah. I think that that's all you can do, and for the people that are viewing your list and look, take stock of the list, maybe about trying a few, and before passing judgment and just trying a few of them and seeing how you experience them because I think your palate is great, Daniel, but I've told you that many times. And I think people could benefit from just, trying different things. And if someone suggests something a little out of the ordinary, hey, I think that's a journey. Take it,
Can I work for half with my palate?
You could. Charlie
The,
Minato style.
the Antarctic cinnamon touches the palate beautifully, mixed with that clubbed baby seal fat and the retro of endangered rhinoceros tusk.
Yes, yes. A little hint of ivory in the finish.
Just the aroma just smells like a forest floor that a deer pissed on. It's divine. See,
Yes.
I could work for half wheel.
Of course, you
There
could.
you go.
Well, you can try that.
Just make stuff up. I'm like, tastes like forest floor. I'm like, what does a forest floor taste like? I've not gone around licking trees and licking the ground in a forest. What does that taste
Man, I actually know what a forest floor smells like, but I've never smelled that in a cigar.
like? I never have either.
Never,
No,
never.
so
Nor do I think I want
I bullshit on Charlie on a lot
to.
on that. I just think he's making shit up. It's like I don't know what, and I've never heard of. Then you like pull up he'll say like some sort of fruit, and then it's like I've never heard of that fruit before in my life, and it's like it only grows on the south side of a mountain in Tibet on odd number years.
Under a blue moon.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, all right, how does he know what that tastes like? You know,
Yeah, yeah. I will say this though about Charlie though, his details on cigars are they're informative, and helpful to me sometimes in my research, even if it's just for a little bit of spec. So I'll give him that. You know,
the
uh,
research aspect of what they do over there
yeah,
is great and a lot of
yeah.
good information. Don't listen to a thing that they write about in their reviews. It's all bullshit.
The reviews I sometimes don't agree with. Yeah, but hey, that's how it is with the you know palates and how do you describe how the cigar affects your palate. I mean, it can get crazy. I hear that a lot. Like I just don't want to hear that sometimes. I know that some viewers say I don't want to hear that sometimes and feel like if I'm not experiencing that I'm some kind of loser who just can't taste a cigar properly. And of course, they're not a loser. It's just
No,
not that way.
and when I was doing reviews, like I tried to get just kind of basic on it. Common flavor profiles that most palates should be able to pick up:
Yes.
leather, pepper, salt, you know, uh, dried fruit, sugar. These types of things that basic palates should be able to
Yeah.
pick. I'm not getting in depth, going, oh yeah, this is Ethiopian cinnamon, you know, because of the no, cinnamon is cinnamon, and I may give you a bit of a sweet cinnamon, a dull cinnamon, off of that to kind of I don't know what kind of cinnamon tastes like that. I know cinnamon is cinnamon.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you it's Godiva baker's chocolate.
I guess if you're a baker, then you can probably, you know,
You may, yeah,
you
you
might
could,
make it out.
you could, but
You could. And that's the
I
point where I look. Yeah. Listen, if that's the case, what I like is when a reviewer says, "Hey, let's just say, for example, I'm a baker by trade, and so that's why I can pick up the different types of cinnamon." And so you give me that context. Now I know that, okay, your palate has been shaped a little bit by what you do for a living, baking, or say if you're a chef, then perhaps your cooking experience plays a role in how you taste things. I can get behind that, but sometimes people won't say that. They'll just pull it out of a hat because it sounds cool.
and I kind of called somebody out on that once because they said, "Oh yeah, this has really that Eastern Texas swamp mesquite." And I was like, dude, there's no way. But then he explained. He goes, "Look, I barbecue and I smoke a lot, and that's a wood I use a lot in my smoking with of meat. So I'm very familiar with what that flavor and taste is." And I'm like, okay, see, all
Okay.
right, that
Yeah.
I can say not bullshit on. But
Yes. Yes.
you probably need to tell people that instead of just throw stuff like that out there because people are going to be like, there ain't no way you know exactly what that would taste like.
Exactly. Exactly. I like when I see a review and I see that kind of context, when I see a certain explanation of how. I think in one video a long time ago, I talked about how I tasted um, hay, right, on the finish or on the cigar flavor. But I also explained that I had gone to a carnival when I was younger, and I had gotten pushed into a sack of hay or hay on the floor, and it got all in my mouth and everything. I got to taste what that tasted like, and I didn't forget it because it was humiliating to fall into the hay. But so that's how I explained it. It tastes similar to that experience, but it's just a flavor note. It doesn't always mean that the cigar is going to taste exactly like that. We can perceive it a little differently sometimes.
Yes, I agree. I think, and everything. It's also all subjective because as was stated back when I started, this is strictly based off of my palate's perspective. Your
Yeah.
results may vary. You know.
Yes,
You know.
absolutely.
I've smoked a lot of the same cigars you have, and you've had a completely different experience on your palate with it than I have. I
Mhm.
think for the most part, you and I have a fairly similar palate, but
Similar. Yeah.
you have smoked some cigars that I've gone like I've not got those types of tastes out of it, and
Yeah.
I've gone back and revisited, and I'm like, nope, still not getting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm like, that's interesting. It's like, well, am I missing something here? But
Yeah. I know.
at
And
the end of the day, it's just your perspective, what you're picking up off your palate.
yeah, we obviously don't all have the same palates. There's a variety in how we taste things. There's women tend to taste things differently than men,
Yes.
and so like there's a bit of science to that. Uh, Older people taste things differently than younger people, and there's a bit of a science to that in regards to your age and how your taste buds develop and die out in some cases.
Well,
And so
but with women though, women tend not to eat heavier than men. They tend to not drink heavier than men. They tend not to have spicier things like men.
yeah,
We ruin our palates from an early age as men. Women
yeah,
tend to not. They tend to have fresher, cleaner palates, and they usually can pick up a lot of stuff I can't in a cigar just because of of the fact they haven't ruined their palates like we
yeah,
have as men.
yeah. I found that to be the case. Sometimes I'm smoking a cigar and my girlfriend will say, "I want to try that." I'll let her try it and I'll ask her, "What do you think?" And she'll start telling me things that they were probably there, and I just wasn't picking up on them the way she just instantly picked up on them. And then I go back and I'm like, yeah, okay, I see your point now. But it took a little searching for, whereas with her it was automatic. And it happens quite often to the point where I'm convinced that, yeah, it's fresher, cleaner palate. She's going to pick up some stuff that I'm not.
Ben, what's going on, brother? Glad to see you. I was getting worried. I hadn't seen you pop up in the chat, man.
What's up, Ben?
I get worried when some of the regulars don't pop in. It's like you get used to seeing somebody every Monday, and you're just like, "Where's he at?" Yeah, subjective. So you are a big Cuban guy. Me, not so much. I could care less. But have you noticed any difference with newer Cubans that you've been picking up now compared to some of the older Cubans from the last 3 or 4 years?
I feel that they have been a little better.
Okay.
That's just my experience that I've had with them. It's been a little bit better. But I've also felt that certain lines, certain brands have either remained really consistent or improved, whereas some of the smaller lines have been a little bit overlooked and probably are not to the point where I would like them. I'll give you an example. Some of the punch cigars, which I love from Cuba, some of them are very delicious, and I love them. A few years back, I had some, wasn't that impressed. And I aged them for about a year or two, wasn't that impressed. Got another crop of them about a year ago, smoked one not that long ago, and it was a lot better. So are they doing some things over there to improve the soil and limit the overuse of the soil and things of that nature? Yes, I think they are. I think that they've heard that loud and clear, and they're doing a lot of stuff where they're trying to advance their equipment and so forth. I've seen some improvement, but sometimes it shines in certain lines and brands. Take, for example, the Monte Cristo number 2, which I don't think is as great as it used to be, but it's still pretty good. It's damn good, actually, and it still holds up very well.
Very cool, Ben. 250 count humidor with heating and cooling. There you go, man. You have to see how well that works with you being out in California and losing all your power this summer.
Yeah. That's the only thing with power. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see how well that works for you on your random blackouts for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still not a guy out that goes out there searching for Cubans. Really, I still stay tried and true to the Paragus Series D. It's still about the only one that I will smoke that I think, for me, has always been the most consistent Cuban cigar I've had out there. And I'm not trying to discourage somebody if you've never had a Cuban before. It's an experience you'll do once, but you'll realize you're really not missing. My opinion, you're not missing anything. If I never smoke another Cuban in my life, I don't feel like I'm missing a damn thing. It is whatever. It is what it is on that. But for me, the Series D, I think that's the best Cuban I've had.
It is a top Cuban cigar, and it's very consistent. Partagas. I did a video on how to find authentic Cuban cigars. And I talked a little bit about how, because of the embargo, American smokers, how our palates kind of shifted away from that profile, the Cuban profile. And we have just been enjoying the deliciousness that is Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, and so on. And don't forget the great Connecticut Valley, because that offers so many things as well. But I talked about how, look, it's okay if you never smoke, if you're smoking Nicaraguan cigars and you're experiencing the greatness of that, you won't ever really miss Cuban cigars. You really won't. But if you are someone that wants to just try something from the past, so to speak, the traditional sense of what the motherland offers, then yeah, try to do so if you want to, but it isn't going to complete you as a cigar smoker. It isn't. It's not going to define you as a cigar smoker if you never have a Cuban cigar. It's just a good experience if you can find the right line,
yes,
and so forth.
So I want to dig into another brand out there. I don't know what your feeling is on them. I know what my feeling is. El Septimo.
Oh God, El Septimo.
My opinion is they're disrespecting the greatness that is Costa Rican tobacco by what they're doing.
That's one angle, and I feel you on that, and I agree with you on that.
A lot of what they put out are fresh rolled. They have no time or no age on them. A lot of them, I really get that really ammonia-ness coming from it. Seems like it's young out there. Plus, some of these hybrids that they're creating out there to put out, I'm not a fan of those tobaccos. It should really. I feel like you're disrespecting Costa Rica, the history of Costa Rican tobacco, as well as some of the great manufacturers that have come out of Costa Rica.
Yeah. What's the guy's name? When I first started looking into Costa Rica, is it Bruno something? I forget his name, but he was the main guy in Costa Rica. It has been for the longest. I forget the line of cigars.
So you have the big one out of Costa Rica now. Nelson Alfonso.
Nelson Alfonso, we know, Yatabay, and so forth. But before him, there was another.
Oh my goodness!
Smaller, and probably less known. He uses Honduran tobacco as well with his blends. I forget his name. It's just on the tip of my tongue. But what you say about El Septimo, look, I've got a little bit of history with the brand because when they first popped up and they were introducing these $60, $75, $80 cigars, right? And I remember that Instagram was going wild because they were spamming the internet. A lot of narco traficantes were loving the brand and were even posing with these cigars, and it seemed like this cigar was being marketed to the very wealthy, regardless of how you acquired the wealth. But I'm not saying that they were marketing to narco traffickers. I'm just saying that that was part of the image that was being broadcasted. And then they shifted away from that. Zaya Iman. I
Yeah,
forgot his last.
Zaya. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy's a genius. I mean, he's built a fortune on hotels and all kinds of real estate, and he's got a high IQ in all of that. And he loves cigars, and I truly believe that he loves cigars. But in their marketing approach, and that's another thing that's been the topic of conversation for a lot of people, the marketing of certain cigars and the hate that comes with it. And I didn't hate on him saying, hey, my cigars are great. But he started making these bold, outlandish claims about what his cigars, what they offered, right? And I was just like, I took one for a test drive. I ponied up the $75 and I bought one, Ruby one, number 7 or something, Ruby, big ring gauge cigar. And I'm like just going through all of the claims and I'm shooting them all down and disproving them with my own documentation. But he was saying, look, you smoke one of these cigars, you won't smell like a cigar. You will not smell like a cigar. Are you kidding me? The tobacco is so pure that after you sit down and smoke one of these huge ring gauge cigars, you're going to walk away smelling like a daisy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just one of the things that was put out there.
So I want to answer Messi's question here. So, what's a good representation of a Cuban cigar? And I would tell you anything made by Nelson Alfonso. In reality, things coming from Lampert are also very good out of Costa Rica as well.
Yeah.
The Atabey. If you haven't smoked the Atabey, look, you want to if you want to smoke a premium cigar that's $40, get yourself an Atabey.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful cigar that for $40 you honestly feel like you're smoking something that should cost a lot more money. Is a good representation on that. What Lampert's doing with tobacco out in Costa Rica is also fantastic. So I would tell you, anything from Nelson Alfonso, the Atabeys are very good. What is it? The Century line,
The Byrons.
Good. Yeah, the Byrons. Yes,
and he released his own line.
Yeah, and the Bandoleros.
And he's got the Alfonso line.
Yes, and the Alfonso line. So, and the Bandoleros out there, if you don't know the story, I smoked and reviewed that cigar, and it was a good cigar, but I felt like I didn't understand it when I was smoking it.
I remember that. Yeah.
I had Oliver from United Cigars called me and said, I want to, he goes, let me give you some information on that cigar, maybe help you out, because he watched the review. He goes, so Nelson created the Bandolero as a tribute to the tobacco thieves that would go to Cuba, steal the tobacco crops, take them back to Costa Rica, and they would manufacture counterfeit Cubans with real Cuban tobacco. And now that cigar made sense to me. After smoking a second one out there,
the context.
Good. Yeah. So if you smoked a Lampert and an Atabey, I think those are two very good representations of what Costa Rica has to offer for tobacco.
I would agree. Atabey, you can't go wrong there. Whether you're getting they've got one that's short filler. One of the the lines is short filler, and you wouldn't know the difference. It's just an amazing cigar. I think El Brujo might be the short filler one. I'm not sure, but yeah, they're delicious, and they're great at any point of the day. I love that. They're very versatile. I just love that line.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Yeah, and look, my thing with El Septimo, because I heard from a lot of people that, oh, well, you got to buy the $60 or $70 stick to really experience that. And I'm like, look, if they can't master a $20 cigar, I'm damn sure not spending $70 on one. I'll tell you that now.
I did have one that was good. Yeah.
So I did too at PCA last year when I went to their massive booth they had.
I heard about that booth. Oh man.
Yes. So I saw they had their 9x58 Salomon. Okay, retails $145. Now I smoked that stick and it did not taste like anything that I've smoked from them before. It's completely different. But I was also there when they let JP light his cigar with the $5 million lighter too.
Oh.
So I watched JP light his cigar with that.
Wow, $5 million. Yeah, that's another part of the Septimo business is the accessories, and how they market those in obviously very opulent, very expensive, and I listen. If I'm not critiquing that because there are a lot of wealthy people out there that would appreciate that. It wouldn't sneeze at paying some of the prices that they're asking. But if we were just talking cigars, then like you said, master a $12 cigar before you tell me I have to pay $100 for one of your cigars to enjoy one of your smokes. Because if that's the case, then you're totally forgetting about the majority of cigar smokers who happen to be thrifty. Even if we have a little extra cash, we want bang for our buck, and if we're gonna pay a lot more, we want what's proven.
Yes.
Not what you're telling me is good, but what I know is good.
Yeah, and I just, I'm just like, so I'm just not a fan, and I just think that I think they're just in too much of a hurry to throw stuff out there and get it out. There's no age on these cigars. They haven't had time to ferment properly, and I really pick up a lot of that ammonia chemical taste from that, and I'm just like, it hasn't had time to ferment right. They just fresh roll.
You know what else I read that they do that he was bragging about? He was saying how their blenders are actually wine testers, master sommeliers, or I don't know if they're master sommeliers, but they're sommeliers, and they are the ones that craft the blends. And it's pretty much the idea that their refined wine palates will be able to craft these magical blends that will leave us cigar smokers in awe, because not only are they using their refined palates, but they're injecting science, and it's just a whole lot of stuff,
It's all bullshit.
Yeah, there was another thing they said. He said at the elevation which they are growing the tobacco, there are no insects. Is another thing they said. So we don't need to use any kind of pesticide. So hey, I did some research on the land in Costa Rica and the insects and the elevations and how far certain insects could go at certain elevations, and I found that was BS. You still have insects, maybe not as much, but you do have them.
Yeah.
And and sometimes you can say you don't use pesticides, and maybe you don't. But then you know what that tells me, Daniel? That tells me that maybe I gotta freeze your cigars. Maybe I gotta freeze them for a couple of days, do the whole freeze process. And it doesn't pain me to say this, that when my friends in Puerto Rico from Finca Nia Hibaido send me cigars, I freeze those as well, the same way I do with my Cubans, because they're not using any pesticides, and if any, very little. that's not a negative on them.
No, but
They get to say,
even a lot of these farms though don't use pesticides. They just offset the crops with, it's
some of them do the freeze.
they
Yeah,
do the freeze, or they put sunflowers
hmm
or coca plants in 3 rows of tobacco, a row of sunflowers and stuff, because
yeah,
the sunflowers, the coca plants bring in the bugs that eat the bugs that get on harass the
yes,
tobacco.
natural predators.
So you're
Yes.
bringing in natural predators. That plus they also have a crop. They got sunflowers to sell, so
hmm
they're making money off of the seeds and off the coca. So. And
Very true.
Messi, you're right. $145 is a turn off to most. But when you're at a certain level of richness there, where money isn't an option, it's all about clout to show you're smoking a $145 stick. It's
Yes.
like the people who always got to be seen with the $100 Davidoffs or the $100 Opus X's. It's all about clout for them. It's not. It's for no other reason than clout. That's it.
Yeah.
They don't. The price doesn't matter. It's just to say, look at what I have. You can't have this.
Yeah. Yeah, like what Andrew Tate does, basically. When you see some of those videos with Andrew Tate, and they're smoking these cigars that are like $100, $1,000, $500. You don't need to spend that kind of money to get to cigar nirvana. You really
No,
don't.
you don't need to.
No.
There's so much good stuff out there that you can just I can find deliciousness in a $7 stick just as much as I can in a $40 stick.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That whole cloud thing is so true. Plenty of people fall into that. It's like the same in a lot of industries where, whether it's bourbon, spirits, whether it's the cars you drive or the watch you wear, whatever, you want to have the Rolex, you want to have, the Lamborghini and so forth. So you want to have that $500 cigar in your mouth. And I actually have a friend like that who drives a Lamborghini and loves to smoke just expensive cigars. That's it. And the more expensive it is, the more thrilled he is to have it and to smoke it. And then it becomes like his daily smoke. And when I'm talking to him, I'm like, there are other brands, and he's like, nah, I'm good.
I have a friend like that too, but I'm also blessed to be his friend because he'll buy it. When the Davidoff Presidente came out in 2008, okay, they made 500 of those cigars. He bought two boxes, which 20 cigars, because they came in boxes of 10. Okay, those cigars were $120 retail in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
He bought two. He gave me one. I would have never dropped that kind of money on it.
Yeah.
It was a delicious cigar. Trust me, don't get me wrong. That was a delicious, delicious cigar. But I would never. And you can still find some of those on the secondary market, and they're damn near $1,000 a stick for the few that are still remaining out there.
Yeah, you got a better friend than me. He hasn't shared any of his with me. I haven't asked either, but I'm sure he would if I asked. But yeah, it's just the thing for me is that doesn't really attract me. That's not what turns me on when it comes to cigars. I think sometimes it's just the story behind the cigar or the blend in specific. That's stuff by AJ Fernandez. That type of stuff excites me. And
So
it's not expensive.
I want to change gears now again on you, and something you and I have talked about,
Mhm.
and something that you and I are both very kind of annoyed with: the Padron Fuente collaboration.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought it up because it was on my mental checklist. Yeah, I did the video, right? And I really honestly felt like I was gonna get more of a response from the cigar community, only because I felt like no one's talking about it and no one's calling them out on this BS that is going on. And like I said, I love them. We both love them. They're great. Calito Fuente, Jorge Padron, masters within titans within the cigar industry, right? We can all agree to that. But they really fumbled the ball here. They really, really dropped it. And man, this was a butt fumble.
I'm at the point now where I'm actually thinking it was just a publicity stunt, a hype. Because the only people I know who have smoked them are people who are connected within the Fuente and Padron camps. That is it. And they've only been, and I've been told by these people that are connected in, they've only been available at special events hosted in Nicaragua by the Padrones or at special events done by Carlito at Chateau Fuente. That they're not really ever going to be released. It was just hype.
I can agree with that. I can. But even if that was the goal or their objective, I still feel they fumbled the ball because even if it was just we're going to make it so limited that it's just going to be for special events, I still felt like they didn't deliver on it the way that they should have. I'm not even interested in it anymore. I've lost complete interest in it. I just thought it could create a whole lot of excitement, and I compared it to the watch world where you had Omega and Swatch do a collaboration, Moon Swatch, which totally tore apart like so many different avenues and really just attracted so many different watch enthusiasts and really created a buzz. And even if they in turn kind of fumbled the ball a little bit themselves, but you can't take away from the fact that they created this buzz and excitement, and it's been lasting. Whereas the Fuente Padron, it didn't really create that kind of excitement, and it didn't follow through on keeping us interested and keeping us excited about it.
I waited and waited and waited.
Yeah, me too. I waited and waited, and nothing.
Because I kept hearing they're going to be $100 a stick. It was
going
to run, and I was like, you know what? I dropped $200. I buy one Padron, one Fuente, and because you and I talked about smoking them together.
We did. We did.
I was willing to drop $200 on that, but then nothing happened. Nothing happened. Then I started asking. They didn't know anything. And Messi, you're right. It's cigar shenanigans is exactly what it is. You know? I had a front row seat for that unveiling at PCA, and I was so hyped for it. But now I'm just like, I'm just not interested. Yeah, because it's like all this hype was built up for 2 years over this cigar, and then we're now almost a year out from their initial that release at PCA, and nothing. Yeah, total fail, major bust, understatement in saying that it's a bust. It's a disappointment more than anything, because I was really looking forward to see what the cigar could offer and just how it could represent the two legends, their fathers, which is what it was. It was an homage to each parent. And I was just like, the story's good, the idea is good. I'm sure that they're going to make fantastic cigars. I don't think that they'll suck, but if we don't get to try them, I mean, it's like there's just nothing there.
There's nothing there.
It's kind of like, man, I really want to try Jeremiah Merrifeld's cigar, but you can't get him here because he uses Cuban tobacco in his blend. So you have to get the you get the non-Cuban blended one here in the United States. But I'm like, I don't want to drop $50 a stick. I want that experience with that Cuban tobacco that he's blended in with that just pure African Cameroon.
So you said Jeremiah
Merrifeld.
So I'll tell you, I never heard of them before.
Okay, his family is the one that owns all the Cameroon.
Okay. Now I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
Now, no,
Merfelds.
that the family that saved Cameroon tobacco.
Yes,
Yes, put it on the map as
yes,
well. Yeah, now I know who you're talking about, and I believe that Fuente buys a lot from them
yes.
for his cigars as well, and they're very expensive. The tobacco is very expensive for a lot of different reasons. You know this, um, the area that it's in, the political turmoil, which affects a lot of the different regions for tobacco. To be fair, but I think it's a little different in the Cameroon case. But when you talk about the blending of Cuban tobacco with other tobaccos, that's rare, right? I think that's rare. It didn't used to be. Again, going back into history, Cuban tobacco was blended with Puerto Rican tobacco. It was blended with American tobacco. And it was guys got a little creative with it, but now it's just either it's a Cuban cigar or it's not.
Yeah.
And so whenever you have somebody that is using a little bit of Cuban tobacco in their blend, it's interesting to see what would happen. And I think a lot of people fantasize about, well, what if the embargo was lifted tomorrow, right? And they allowed American or any other companies to buy tobacco from Cuba so that they could blend. And of course, in a perfect world, that would happen, but that's not as simple as that. I don't think it would happen that way. The Cuban government wants to protect their, tobacco,
Well, of
and so I
course.
don't think they're going to be that eager to part with it and go back
No,
to the way
but I
things were.
think that you would probably see a lot of great collaborations out there with
Mhm,
like the Fuentes. Carlito's one who's not shy of taking risks,
mhm.
especially on blends. He would definitely. You could definitely see something Cuban coming from Carlito, something Cuban coming from AJ,
Oh yeah,
something. There are certain that I think that for the Cuban government, them getting in bed with some of these brands out there, it would be beneficial for them. One, showcase the Cuban tobacco, but it would also put more hype into it for newer consumers out there that are turned off by Cuban.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It would introduce something unknown to a lot of people. Um, so yeah, I would definitely be excited about that. But of course, I don't see that in the foreseeable future. I think the best example, or one of the examples that I would offer, is that when Zeno Davidoff was working with the Cuban government, and he was told he had to pack up his belongings and go, and that they were no longer going to be selling him the Cuban tobacco. Uh, there were companies like General Cigars that were already hedging their bets in regards to, okay, we've got to play nice with the Cuban government, because if the embargo is lifted, then we've got to work with them again. But then Edgar Cullen, I believe is his name, at the top of General Cigars at the time, said, "Hey, I don't see that happening. I say we move forward with our plans as is, and really just forget that they're going to come back into the fold." And so, there have been a lot of guys out there that have blended with Cuban tobacco, Cuban with Colombian tobacco, with Brazilian wrappers. I mean, you hear about it, right? But you don't really see it in the mainstream, and it's not something normal. But it would be amazing, and I know we'd geek out over that for sure.
Oh yeah, I totally would. I have a buddy who's able to score one of the last Davidoffs manufactured in Cuba in the mid '80s, and he
Premium stuff.
smoked. Yeah, yeah, and he smoked it. He was loving it. He could definitely tell that the strength had kind of died off a lot on it from almost 40 years ago. But
Hmm.
you could tell there was something there that if you would have gotten it and smoked it 40 years ago, it would have been something amazing.
Yes, yes, and I've been fortunate enough to smoke some of the vintage cigars that I get from the vintage cigar store, and some of them have been like, for example, the El Producto, the ones that George Burns loved to smoke. They were Puerto Rican Cuban blend with a Sumatran wrapper, or later on it was a homogenized wrapper. But even so, delicious, absolutely delicious stuff. And but you get that sense of so much time has passed that it's not all there, but you get a glimpse of it. And you just wonder, man, if only we were doing that now.
I noticed that back in 2006, I bought a 5 pack of the Opus X Double Oscuro. That was they only made 1,000 of them, and I bought a 5 pack. They were $35 a piece in 2006. I smoked two of them, when I got them, and they're amazing. That African Cameroon Oscuro with a Dominican Cameroon Oscuro binder. It
Sounds
was delicious. Well, I kind of forgot I had them, and so when I was going through reorganizing, putting everything into Tupperdoors, which I put everything in Tupperdoors by wrapper,
yeah,
so they're all there. I found it and I smoked one, and it was just flat. Too much time has too much time had gone by on it, and I kind of, it just kind of went down. It was just
yeah,
downhill.
yeah,
That rich, deep, dark chocolate was gone. That beautiful caramel sweetness was gone, and it was just more cardboard.
yeah. I hate when I get that cardboard taste.
Later, Ben.
Later, Benjamin. Yeah, I detest that cardboard taste, but that is inevitably what happens to a lot of uh, vintage cigars that have been laid down for a long time, and it's just that's how it is.
How it is.
It's part of it. It's part
Yeah,
of it. You have to adjust your palate for that as well. You know,
yeah. I
that's
was excited as I was
thank
getting
you,
ready to light
Benjamin.
it. I was remembering what that cigar tasted like. Back in 2006. I was like, I remember how great this cigar was. But then I lit it and I started smoking it, and I was just like, oh no, it's gone. It's flat. You know, I waited too long. I wish I would have. I honestly forgot I had it. Like I found unopened fivers of sticks that I never even got into that I completely forgot about. I had I had one of the first runs of what is now the Garcia y Garcia from my father's cigars
Oh man,
from back in 2004 on there. Before it was rebranded as my father's cigars when it was still the Jaime Garcia cigars.
yeah, yeah. That's a relic.
Yeah,
You know, yeah. And those cigars, you forget them, but sometimes they end up on the market sometimes, and people get to enjoy them. And perhaps, like you said, they're not going to taste them at their height, but there's still a piece of history, and there's still something to it. It's still something memorable in them. Yeah,
there was I smoked one. It was still good. That Nicaraguan tobacco doesn't lose its punchiness as quickly as Dominican or Cuban
yeah,
tobacco does. It
I agree. I
it
agree.
it, it holds on a bit longer than it. So you know, I think after almost 20 years, I think some of the potency was muted down, but the taste was still good. So didn't
Yeah,
mind.
Nicaraguan ages so well. It just does. Age. I think it's
It's that
probably the
soil.
best. Yeah,
I think it's the
it's the best
soil.
anyway. Yeah,
That rich, high, volcanic nutrient soil. Really, I think it retains when you smoke an older Nicaraguan. It retains. Takes longer for it to go flat.
I hear you, man. One of the things on my bucket list is to head out there to Ometepe, out
Mhm.
in Nicaragua, and find my way there and run my hands through that soil and just you know tour the farms and look at the volcanoes and really just relish in that because Ometepe is my favorite Nicaraguan tobacco region, and I just love it, and I just think it ages so well, it smokes so well, it's just a treasure. It really is.
And you can going to Nicaragua is cheap. The plane
Mhm.
ticket will be the most expensive thing for you to go, but there you could get a 5-bedroom mansion in Nicaragua for like
Mhm.
$30 a night.
Yeah, yeah,
It's dirt cheap to stay there. The people are wonderful and nice, and such a great and wonderful experience. Same thing going to to Honduras, to Danley. It's the people are so nice, and it's cheap. The cost of living is cheap down there, and
yeah,
good
yeah.
food, good people, good cigars.
Definitely, definitely. I definitely want to make it out there and and just enjoy myself out in Nicaragua. And I'm looking forward to that trip because it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Uh,
Are you get uh, are you gonna be are you kind of getting on this resurgence of European tobaccos coming back into the market
like from Germany and such.
from Germany and Italy? Starting to see a resurgence on there. Italian. I've been told by a lot of master blenders and tobacconists, Italian Italian tobacco is the best wrapper in the world. That Italian Habano, there's nothing better.
Oh, well, I've only had one experience with Italian tobacco, and that was with a CAO Italia that did use some of the, well, the most primo tobacco that Italy has to offer, which is not far from where they grow their famous tomatoes. And yeah, I mean, I did the video, I did the research, and I found out about like the Cuban uh, expats that went to Italy and introduced the seeds and introduced, tobacco, growing tobacco. And but it's really just on such a small scale that even if you wanted to say it's the best in the world, it's just not enough of it. And it's primarily used for fillers. And it's primarily used best in a blend, not as a puro or anything like that, as far as I know. So, but hey, they could up their game and maybe produce some more. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, people were ignoring Brazil for a long time.
Yeah,
Now,
and I see with like Ish from Banff Cigars what he's out there doing and what he's creating with that pure African cigar. Yes, it's phenomenal.
yeah.
Using take sourcing tobacco from Transylvania
Oh
and
wow.
the blood of Vlad. It's a delicious cigar. Taking traditional Irish tobaccos that are usually used in pipe and woolies and blending it into a cigar. Uh, you know,
Amazing.
going in his new cigar dropping at PCA, the Mafioso, which is Italian binder, Italian wrapper. As he said, they can't make or Italian filler and Italian binder. They can't make a wrapper to save their life. Is
Yeah.
what he said. But they're going to China and seeing what they're doing in China with the tobacco and taking and out there. That innovativeness that's coming from some.
Yeah.
Again, we go back to these smaller brands out there. Somebody like Ish, what he's doing. 2 factories in the Dominican, factory in Nicaragua, a factory in Zimbabwe. He's getting ready to open a factory in Ethiopia.
That's all exciting stuff. And I would love to, of course, taste a cigar like that you just mentioned. Um, Wrapper is hard to grow. It's not something everyone can grow, and it's a challenge. So I understand how that could be a challenge, but I think that it can be overcome.
He'll go broke on his website.
I bet.
Every time I go on, I always, for a guy who has over 500 blends available, I'm like, I'm gonna go through all of his. I keep rebuying the same stuff over and over. Buy that pure African, the blood of Vlad, the MRE, which is infused with maple bacon grease.
Whoa, what's that like?
Delicious. It's a delicious cigar. It's called Breakfast of Champions. Breakfast of Champions. The MRE. The barbed wire, the BTC better than Cuban. So much that he puts out there, and he does, and he makes fantastic cigars. But definitely, you know, hit up Banff, and definitely got to get that pure African. It's just pure African Cameroon. It's a Cameroon Puro.
That is something I've been looking for. I remember when Bongani came out from Africa, and they were using the Dominican wrapper, some I think no African wrapper, Cameroon wrapper, African binder, but the filler was Dominican. And I remember speaking to the owner of Bongani, I forgot his name now, and he said, "Yeah, the goal is to eventually get to a pure African cigar, but it's expensive, and there was a lot of red tape involved, and I knew someone was going to rush to market with something like that."
Ish did, and it's one of those sticks. It's so smooth, but it's very, very strong. The vitamin N is very. It's an ass kicker with that vitamin N. If you're not, it's so good, and then you find yourself smoking it fast, and then you stand up, and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are afraid of cigars like that, but it can be managed. It could be,
It's a good stick. The blood of Vlad is very good. That Transylvanian tobacco just adds such a different uniqueness to that flavor. And when I interviewed him on that, and I go, "Well, what made you?" He goes, "Wherever they grow tobacco, I'm going to go. I'm going to find it. I'm going to source it, and I'm going to find a way to blend it into a cigar."
Yeah, the CAO, for better or worse, whether people love them or not, they do that. They go out looking for these obscure tobaccos from Panama and things like that.
But they also had a genius like Rick Rodriguez who was in there working that blend on that. And since Rick left, I really haven't seen anything from CAO that has made me go, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't either, other than, their Amazon Basin, which, now they got the Extra Añejo one, which was good. It was good. But it didn't wow me the way I thought it would, but then again, that was my take on it.
Well, I met, I talked with Rick at PCA last year, and then he was at Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest. And he goes, "I got a gift for you as a thank you for helping me promote the new company since he left CAO and started his own West Tampa. Very good cigars. If you have anything from West Tampa, go pick up some.
I've heard about them. I haven't tried them.
They're delicious. Great sticks. Takes you back to older CAO stuff, like stuff that you would expect that would come from Rick. So he goes, "I got to gift." And so he gives me this cigar. I can't see it. The cello is so brown. I can't see the cigar in it. I go, "Oh, wow, thanks." He goes, "That is an original. That is an Amazon Basin from the original run in 2016."
Wow. I remember when they first came out, and I really loved them, and they age well too.
Well, I have yet to smoke it. I'm not one. I'm always one that tells people, they're meant to be smoked, but I really feel like that's like a celebration cigar. Like
yes.
I need to have like a celebration to light that one up. I just don't feel like that's a stick I can just light up at any time, just because this is you can't find these original run sticks out there
I totally hear you. And once they're gone, right? Once you light that up, it's gone. And you just, I say the same thing like you. We preach the same thing. The old cliche, smoke them if you got them type of thing. And they're meant to be smoked, not put away for the future, or at least not for a super extended period of time. But sometimes a cigar warrants a certain, moment. And you got to have it on deck for that moment. And you got to be prepared for it. So I've got some special cigars that I probably going a little bit over on their aging, but I just haven't found that moment yet for them. I just can't light it up just cause. And much as I want to smoke it,
Yeah.
it's got to match the cigar. And yeah, so I totally feel you on that. Because your birthday is a great time to go into the humidor and look for a special stick. And that's how it is. You look for these moments so you can celebrate them.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that you can't go wrong your birthday. But I think I need something better than a birthday to light that stick up. I
There,
just
there, there are. Yeah.
but I was one of those that always preached when I was doing reviews because what were Thursdays? Premium Cigar Thursday.
Yeah.
We're gonna smoke a stick over $20 or a rare stick. Why? Because they're meant to be smoked.
Yes.
This is a stick. I don't even think if I was doing reviews, I could light up on a Thursday and smoke it. I think
Yeah.
it's a stick that I would have to just be like, okay, yeah, I need a real special occasion, to light that up.
Yeah, because you don't want to let it go, and if you're gonna let it go, it's got to be something big time. I know it's just sticks like that. It maybe a famous cigar maker gave it to you, or famous roller rolled it for you, or it's a special commemorative cigar that one of 20 or whatever. It's just hard to just light that up and whatever. Need a special moment.
So, do you have a partnership with the vintage cigar company?
So we have an understanding, is what we have,
Okay.
and our understanding is really first that we connected as brothers of the leaf, and we became friends. But at the same time, there's this appreciation. He's an older gentleman, not super old, but an older gentleman, and he has a lot of experience within the cigar community and cigar industry, and he has this appreciation for the past, which kind of, I mean, that's what I do. I talk about the past. I was smoking vintage cigars and buying vintage cigars before I met him, and so it just kind of became a thing where he's like, I've got these cigars and I don't know anything about them, so I need some guidance on what year, whatever. And I would just help him out with that. And then it became a thing. Well, I'm going to send you some cigars for you to try. You don't have to review them. You don't have to do anything with them, but I'm going to send them to you. And I would try them, of course, and smoke them. And sometimes I do a review, and it just blossomed from there. Just an understanding between the two of us. I guess you could say, um, he'll send me cigars and I'll give him feedback, which is great. Great.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
Sure.
It's great for both of us.
Sure.
Yeah. But also, I would do some historical work and kind of give him some background. And oftentimes I would just tell him, look, this is all I could come up with on this cigar. It's too obscure. I don't know much. I can't find anything on it. Because he's getting a hold of cigars from 1902, 1920, 1922, and it's hard getting information on those cigars. He sent me one last year, Jose Jenner. It's a Diamedes, 9 by 52, 55, something like that. It's like a $200 cigar. And I dug on the history, and there was a lot of stuff on there about this guy, Jose Jenner. And some of it wasn't so good, about this man. Bit of a monster, sort of, maybe, to some. And, it's just weird what the history will provide, what kind of information that'll provide. But he's a cool dude, and I love his customer service. I love the way he conducts his business. So, if I get a cigar and it's not smoking right, and it's not pleasurable, I can call up and say, hey, and not just me, but anybody. Call up and say, hey, I didn't really, I paid a lot, and I didn't really, and he'll take care of you. And I love that. That's the way it should be. But yeah, that's how it kind of blossomed. And it also blossomed because I sought him out to ask him about cigars that had Puerto Rican and Cuban blends that were comprised of Puerto Rican and Cuban tobacco, because I was so interested in trying that blend. And since then, I've tried so much of it, and I can tell you that, man, oh man, it was a match made in heaven. Cuba and Puerto Rico. Yeah.
But you don't have a drool bucket.
I do not. I need one of those.
Got that.
Yeah.
Available for advertising.
Need a drool bucket. Definitely.
That's right. You
Take
need
out
to
those
get
drones. You need a drool bucket.
I got the drool bucket. I had the gentleman on a few weeks ago that basically made me come up and create the drool bucket on with his cigar, Mr. Howard G.
Oh, Howard G. Yeah.
Yeah, I had him on. I go, you're the reason why that I got a drool bucket.
Howard G. Maduro. I got one in the humidor. I've got a.
Dude, the black Moses is.
I think you sent that one to me, and I still have it. I'm dying to try it. And
Man, that's the reason for the drool bucket.
Yeah, man. I'm still yet to, but now it's on the list. It may just get smoked tomorrow.
Oh yeah, it's such a good stick, out there. And then, then there's been a few sticks that have come, had me come out there with it. The greenie from the Cigar Clowns, that was like slobbering on myself first puff. I was just like, oh, we're done. No need for a review on this one. We're good. I'm already drooling. First puff.
Yeah, Cigar Clowns, great, and you can't, shy away from the fact that part of the reason that their stuff has been so great is their collaboration with AJ. So that I think that's played a role in it. But these guys
now they've moved off of Nicaragua. Now they're on their Dominican journey.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're getting from them now is Dominican.
I remember when you did a live with them and everything, and I got to meet them as well when I went out for the release of one of the last cigars they came out with at Rex Barclay. Good group of guys, Brooklynites. I'm a Brooklynite, so I don't live in Brooklyn anymore, but that's where I grew up, and I just instantly clicked with them. They're a great group of guys.
Yeah, they were out in AC this weekend at the Cigar Snob event. They had a tent up there.
I wish them the best.
They've done so much more now that they broke ties with the man in the funny hat.
Well, now they can spread their wings a bit, right? And you got to start somewhere, and that's not a bad place to start. Working with AJ,
No,
that guy's a master.
That's right. So yeah, you get definitely moving on. The couple sticks they've put out from their Dominican line have been fantastic cigars. So they're there.
Speaking of breaking away, not so much breaking away, but what do you think about the Alec Bradley sale?
So I talked with I did talk with Bradley Rubin at PCA because that broke right at TPE. And that broke right at TPE, and he was totally bummed out by it because he honestly thought he was going to take over. He's basically spent his whole life in that factory and learning the ropes from sweeping the floors all the way up to the top end there. And he said his dad had a number in his head.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to sell. What you had to meet that number or exceed it for him to want to sell. And when STG came in, and they must have had that number because they did.
Yeah.
So I asked him, where are you staying with the brand? Because you're part of it. And he goes, I don't know what the contract says. I go, well, what you and your brother have done has been amazing. The fact that you've put out 3 sticks over the last 3 years that have been top 25. Who comes out swinging like that?
Yeah.
Out there. You know, I go, whether you guys stay with the brand and continue doing what you're doing, or you and your brother go off on your own, you guys are going to be successful because you've started at the bottom and worked to the top, and you've got that respect out there now, especially with what you've done and what you've put out, man.
Definitely. I think the number was closer to, it was almost 80 million from what I heard. Almost $80 million. And
I would
yeah,
think they would want him to stay on, kind of like the same role that like Booth has with them.
like an ambassador, so to speak, ambassador of the brand, and just a part of the team. And but again, without knowing the contract, you don't know. But I really have a feeling that STG is just gonna do their own thing with this, and they're really not gonna look for as much input as they
What
may
they're
want to give. That's just what I think, because of just how they operate. But that doesn't mean that this is the end of the line. For the line, it could be a resurgence. Who knows? I mean, I just think it's a bummer that the family isn't at the helm anymore. But it's how it is.
It is how it is,
Yeah,
but
it's how it
my
is.
my my hope for them is that they stay on, that they stay on as that ambassador role, that they still have some sort of input, that they're still working and blending and putting out stuff, because with Booth, you know, he wasn't going to give up total control of the quality of his cigars to be mass
No,
produced.
no,
He's like, no, it was good for him. He gets to stay on. He's still hands on. He's still out there blending and creating cigars.
he's a part
He's
of it. Yeah,
he's a part of it, and I'd hope that Alec and Bradley also stay on with there as well. But whether they do or they don't, I don't know the contract. So I
yeah,
can't. And neither did Bradley. But he was bummed. He was totally bummed, and I felt really bad for him because he really thought he was going to take over. He really thought his dad said he was only going to go about another year, two at the most, and so he really thought he was going to take over and run that show. And,
wow.
just that family legacy of continuing on. But at
It's a
the end of the
shame.
day, his dad owns the company, can do
Yeah,
whatever he wants. So
yeah,
you know, pretty soon everything's going to be owned by STG.
yeah. Pretty soon,
Everything's going to
General
be put out.
Cigars and yeah, yeah. These big companies, they just swallow smaller companies up. That's just how it is. But it's a shame.
you know,
Bad for
uh,
them. But maybe they could do something new on their own. You know, maybe they could. Maybe they could.
they could easily do it, and they would have much success. I mean, when you've dropped three cigars in 3 years that have been top 25. You could start they could start their own brand up easily and be successful right off the bat just because
Yeah,
of what they've done. But you gotta remember though that when Philip and King bought Drew Estate, that became the quality went down. It became all trash, and JD went back. He's
yeah,
like, yeah, you're ruining what I built.
yes,
So everything's going to go through me again.
yeah,
And
and
he brought Pedro on, who's kind of running all the day-to-day stuff. And JD and Pedro definitely want to make sure that you're getting something awesome and amazing out of it. And Philip and King have basically let them do their own thing.
yeah, and it broke his heart to sell as well when he sold, because he started with a kiosk at the World
Yeah,
Trade Center.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
so
slept on he slept on Don Kiki's floor and learned from Don Kiki to how to make cigars.
see, this, the struggles.
I
Yeah,
do. I
and
do.
and like I can't say I know what it is to struggle like that with the company and then have to part with it because of a certain number. But until you're in those shoes, you don't know. But what you can identify with is that struggle that people, when they labor at something that they love and they dedicate their life to it, and then you know to see that go down, or to just see that degrade, it can really bring you down. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But it's nice to see JD out there, doing his thing. Pedro can run all the day to day stuff. Uh, JD can be out there, kind of as the figurehead on everything and show off and still do his art and music and everything that he wants to do. Still dressed like LL Cool J from 1985.
Oh yeah, those outfits, man.
Yes, showing
Yeah.
his in his all black Adidas.
Sneakerhead. Yeah.
Uh,
Sure. But
out there,
color,
but I love it, man. JD's a great dude. He's great for
he's
the
got a lot of
industry.
passion. He's
Yeah,
got so much passion.
he
You know.
does. And
So
he
yeah,
does.
man.
But he learned from one of the best, Don Kiki. So and of course, and of course Karen Berger there, who's Don Kiki's wife. What she's done, carrying on his legacy, and manufacturing amazing cigars. I think and she said in an interview once, she would hope that he would be proud of what she's done, and I'm just like, I don't see how he couldn't be proud of what she has accomplished, especially as a woman in the industry. One, but two, continuing his legacy on.
Yeah. It's hard to do.
But I think he would be proud of what she's done. I mean, she makes such good stuff. She makes such good stuff. It blows my mind. But I did get something from Blue Estate in the mail. I didn't know it was coming, but it said thank you for it said thank you for being one of our Drew Estate media members. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know I was. I didn't know how they got my address. But they got my address and
They've been
showed
tapping your phone as well. Wow. Okay. That is cool. Nice.
this thing's heavy as hell too.
Wow. That's a nice piece, man.
Yeah. So Drew Estate sent me this. I don't know how they got my address, honestly. I was just like, how'd they get it? I was like, I didn't order anything. I just see this big, huge box sitting on the porch. And I was just like, where'd this come from? But yeah.
Next
So
thing you know, you get a package at your job. This is like, we know where you work too.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. It's not hard to figure out where I work.
No. No.
So what new things you got coming down the pipeline?
New coming down the pipeline. Of course, I'm gonna do some vintage cigar smoking. I've got something that is more sentimental, but means a lot to me. I'm working on a video to pay homage to my grandfather who recently passed, and he just left behind some interviews with me about cigars that I have, and I just kind of want to do something special with that and kind of pay tribute to him and everything he taught me about cigars and everything in general. But I'm looking forward to that. That's a sentimental piece. That's something that is close to my heart. But I also want to put out some more informational videos on different cigar brands. I want to head out to see my friends out in Puerto Rico and see what they're doing with their grassroots movement and their pursuit of growing Puerto Rican wrapper tobacco. And maybe if I can, do some interviewing as well. I'm not as good as an interviewer as you are, but I think, maybe something around that, let's just interview some important people or key people, and that would be great. But really, I'm looking forward to putting that video out, pay tribute to my grandfather, and also just some vintage cigar smokes along with some informational videos.
That's
As
awesome.
always, that's what I'm looking to do, is to educate share that knowledge that I obtain with everyone else. I'm not charging anybody for it. I don't want to charge anybody for it. I just want everybody to just enjoy it with me and appreciate all of the history that came before us. So that's one of my things.
I love your content. I think
Thank
more
you, brother.
people
Thank
need
you.
to.
I appreciate that.
You should be bigger than you are because I think your content is fantastic. What you do for the community, the time and effort and dedication you put in, nobody does what you do out there. I think it's a beautiful thing. And all of you guys in the chat, if you're not following him on Instagram or subscribe to his YouTube channel, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, down in the description, I got links to everything him. So you can go click, go follow, go subscribe. Puts out amazing content. If you're watching on LinkedIn, I'm sorry because they hide the links and make their own created links, so I can't. You'll just have to guess which link is which on it. So sorry.
Yeah, welcome aboard. Thank you. Yeah, welcome all aboard. I'm very welcoming because I appreciate all of the interaction. And anytime I get an opportunity to speak with you, Daniel, or anyone else, but especially you, it really means a lot.
Well, I got to bring you on a couple times a year just so we can just to catch up. And I love nerding out with you on tobacco and history and blends and brands. I just think it's a treat. It's a treat for me. A show like this is a show for me. And for the other, if you're watching it and you're enjoying it, great. But for me, this is a show for me. I get to hang out with a good friend in Jose. I get to nerd out with Jose because very few people out there have the passion and the knowledge that he has. And every time I watch one of his videos, I feel like I leave learning something more than I didn't know before. And I think that's what makes your show different and unique is with that historical aspect. When you do those historical series on there, I know a little bit about it, but now I know a lot. And I love that takeaway that I leave. That's so interesting, Just listen to what you do. Like I said, you can do a 2-hour video on dirt, and I would watch it. Just because I think you would find a way to make it interesting, and the facts you would put in and the history of why this kind of dirt needed to be used and how much water had to. You would do it right. And,
I kind of did a video like that, the soil of Ecuador.
Yes, exactly. That's why I said dirt because I watched an hour and 3-minute video on dirt. Oh, Cab, thank you, man. This is a different show than what I normally do, but this is a fun show for me. This is a me show, and I gotta have Jose on a couple times a year just to break up the monotony of a lot of the other shows that I do, and I love having Jose on, and he's one of those guys that has an open invite anytime he wants to come on. He's got that invite. He's one of the people out there that has carte blanche to come on whenever he wants.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I always love being on this show. Geeking out with you, man, is special, and interacting with your viewers as well. Everybody's just so welcoming to me. And I just want to let everybody know that I'm here. I'm here, and I'm with open arms as well,
Yes, you got to. So if you're in the chat, man, definitely go show Jose some love. He puts in a lot of time and effort into his content, and it's fantastic content. And he has such a great passion for it and fun, and such a knowledgeable guy. If you have any questions on it, he's one of those guys you. Oh, there we go. This camera's backwards than I usually. This guy has so much knowledge in it that if you got a question, you can run it by him. He'll if he doesn't know the answer, he can get you the answer that you're looking for. And
Yes, I'll
you know,
research it and make
he will
sure that.
research it. In fact, he may probably, if it's a really good question, he'll do a video on it.
Yeah, I will.
He'll do a video on it. So
Like the retro hail.
the retro exactly, and
Yeah.
so it's all on there. Anything you want to close out with tonight, Jose? Promote you or yourself or your show or your advertising, whatever you would like.
Well, I do have my partnership understanding with the VintageCigarStore.com, uh, mainly because we have that shared connection for the past, for history, and for appreciating vintage smokes. And I always implore people to just step out of your comfort zone, try something a little different. This shop sells really old sticks, and they're not charging you an arm and a leg for it. You can find some things that are very affordable, and maybe it's something that your grandpappy smoked or your grandma smoked or your father, and you might find it and get to relive what they enjoyed. I mean, that's just one of the things I love about VintageCigarStore.com. But yeah, that is one thing. And then come check me out at BackYard Cigars. I answer, like Daniel, I answer every question. I answer every comment. I don't ignore anyone. Everyone's welcome. Pick my brain. Like, crap.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Well, while Jose tries to get his phone and camera figured out there, um, Raw Cigar Reviews tomorrow night. We don't have a guest tomorrow night, but Ryan and I will be smoking a awesome stick. I've been really, really, really looking forward to. So come show up. Ryan's only got 3 shows left on Raw Cigar Reviews before we. I don't know if the series is going to end or not, but it may. So definitely get in and enjoy the time we got with Ryan left before he moves on to greener pastures. I'm sorry. I'm sad that he's leaving, but I'm happy for what he's got going on. So definitely come enjoy the next 3 shows on that. Next week, Mario Caraballo from Casa Caraballo will be my guest. Definitely, this will be his second time on the show. So if you're not familiar with him or his brand, we will be kind of going back over some stuff that we've talked about before. Very awesome dude. Makes fantastic sticks. Ryan and I have had him on a couple weeks ago on the Raw Cigar Reviews with his brand new sticks, and that was a fantastic, fantastic smoke. And I've got a special Memorial Day show that will also be going on, but it'll be early in the day because my guest is coming on from Germany. Yes. So, and that's going to be a very special show. I didn't want to go a couple weeks without giving you guys any content, especially if we took Monday off and then you had, then the following week being off that Monday because of my work schedule. So, going to give you guys a Memorial Day show, and that will be running in Monday afternoon. So be on the lookout for that. Jose, looks like Jose had some technical issues and he's off, but make sure you go follow BackYard Cigars. Jose does an amazing job, amazing content, good friend of the show, and an amazing brother of the Leaf. So, guys, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out tonight and enjoying this kind of different show. But like I said, this is a me show. This is a show for me. Wanted to spend some time and hang out with my brother Jose there and nerd out with him. So until next week, guys, thank you so much. Take care. Be safe out there. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And as always, peace out.